Hey everybody, welcome to Biz Of Show. My name is Levi Walker. My best friend in the whole wide world is
Candace Donahue.
And we are, if you've seen Biz Of Show, we connect with all the people that we've worked with over the past 25 years or that we've crossed paths with, that we're friends with, and we pick their brain to figure out how they survived this Biz Of Show and how they created their own lanes so we can pour all of our wisdom into you guys. So hopefully you guys can be inspired and learn more. If you have not already done it, join our Facebook group. We've got loads of really cool interviews and all sorts of informational stuff that we have to help you in your career, no matter what level or stage of your career that you're at. And we'd love to see you there. And today I'm having kind of a weird, surreal moment because the three people you see on your screen haven't all been in the same room together for 25 years.
True.
Candace, why don't you go?
Similar faces, though, right? It's similar. It's not.
Oh my God, yes. We all look 18 again.
Right, 18 again. Anyway, this is one of our dear friends that we want to introduce that we know from back in the day, Keith Bearden.
Hello. Hi, Keith.
Hi, guys. How's it going?
Keith has a pretty impressive resume, including several national tours, regional theaters, and Broadway.
Oh, and I have the list here. You want me to read the list? I mean, you guys, seriously. When I met Keith, we did the Bugs Bunny show together. It was like our first real professional gig, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And it's one of those shows where you just don't ever want to admit you did it. But you know what, kids? You got to start somewhere. And we started dancing around in 100-degree Georgia summer heat in Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck and Sylvester the Cat. It was really hard, but we were skinny and snatched, weren't we?
Because we were sweating so much.
Exactly.
That's also my first experience, Keith, if you didn't know that. I was Daffy Duck at the show out at the Best of Times at the Crystal Pistol.
I did not know that.
The Crystal Pistol Music Hall. So you guys, Keith has a really amazing and impressive resume. Most of you might know him from Wicked, from the national tour, from the LA company, and also from Broadway. And he was a swing out on the road. And then when he went to New York, he was not a swing. He was the Witch's Father and the Ozian Official. And he also understudied the Wizard. You were the Wizard, and Dr. Doe. Yeah, he also has a gajillion gajillion amazing credits, national tours, regional theaters. He did Superstar National Tour. He did Shrek. He played the Big Bad Wolf, and Hunchback of Notre Dame. Which are you guys sharing the same director? Right, same director.
Yeah, same director. Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to talk about that for a second. And then he also played Dr. Madden in Next to Normal. Why don't you two connect on Hunchback and what's going on with Hunchback in Seattle?
Yeah, what's going on, Candace?
We just blocked Topsy Turvy yesterday.
Oh boy, yeah.
Which is because you played Clip-On.
Yes.
Right? So
yes, I did.
Currently, I'm a reveilleur, sitting on the floor watching. We're calling them gypsies. I don't mean to be, but that's what it's called in the script. Gypsies dance. So it's it is a fast and furious pace. I can say that. It is a fast and furious pace. We started rehearsals on Thursday, and we started staging on Saturday.
It's about right. Yeah,
So,
That's insane.
Glenn moves fast. It's good.
I think a lot of people, we talk a lot about how young people just think, oh, I want to dance with Justin Timberlake, or I want to hump J-Lo's leg, or I want to be on Broadway. And they don't realize that the craft and the art isn't just taking dance classes, it's understanding how to pick up and process and memorize and move quickly within a rehearsal process.
Absolutely. And trying to, when you have your internal freak out moments, how you have to breathe through that and figure out what you got to do to just keep going.
Exactly. Yeah. And it gets even worse when you're a swing, right, Keith?
Absolutely.
I mean, why don't you tell us a little bit about being a swing? I mean, that's...
what do you want to know?
Well, how do you keep all of that in your head? I've swung a lot in my life too, but not like Wicked. I mean, cheese and crackers.
Yeah, it was my first swing experience. So it was going from, learning what you do in your shows and your track and perfecting that and working on your craft and getting to a great place where you're satisfied and happy with your performance the majority of the time, at least. You know, we always have stuff. And then when you're a swing, it took me years actually to get to the point to where you have to realize that perfection is not going to happen. It's not about perfection. It's about you being in your spot and not causing danger, and trying to do the best you can do and bringing what you can, but you are replacing someone in the moment that is not there, you know. So
and everyone around you that
is used to their show,
is doing their show, and and everybody's used to it, and you have to step in.
Right. So it is, you know, as far as like the memorization of things, I don't know, it just started kind of morphing. In the beginning, I had these sheets that, because Wicked was already around for a couple of years, our dance captain was like, here's a track sheet with all of his notes. So then I was able to make my own notes on top of that. And then just kind of, you know, when you would go on, I covered, for Wicked, I covered for Ensemble, The Father, The Wizard, and Dilliman. So you were constantly switching around and going on, and everything was quite similar, but totally different, you know? So you would go on stage, do your thing, come off stage, go to your quick change, look at your sheet so that you could double check what you're about to go do, you know. And then eventually you get to a place, or I did, where I didn't have to check the sheet. I'd gone on so many times that, you know, it's kind of muscle memory enough to where you would go out. Not to say that it was ever 100% perfect, but you know, there's definitely laughs that happen when you're a swing, for sure, you know.
Oh, it's also really funny. Like, I remember Kyle Craig when I was doing Grease, like all of a sudden one day I just turned around and there was Kyle dressed like a boy, like next to me in Grease Lightning. And I was like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, that happens. We had a couple of instances where you're down so many people that some of the girl swings had to go on as like a guard for a quick run across, or as the 10-man double instead of the guy, you know. I mean, but those things can be covered. But, you know, so, and there were a couple of moments that I had to do things that I wasn't in my duties, but as a swing, you know, they need somebody, and it was kind of fun and something I got to do different. So you get taught something really fast, and then you're literally from the wings being talked through what you're doing, you know. And it was like you run out and do something and come back. And
tell us a fun story like that.
Right now, I can think of the first time our dance captain, which was a female, had to go on for the 10-man double, and all of the swings, we were like giggling and laughing because she's this. Was
it Carrie Blanchard?
It wasn't. She's not the dance captain. She was on another tour. That would have been hilarious, actually.
That's what I had in my head.
Oh my gosh, I would have loved to see Carrie be the 10-man double. But it was my friend Kristen, and she is a wonderful dancer. She's actually in soft power right now here in the Amundsen, and she's so talented, and she knows dance captain that like nothing is in a book. She remembers every single thing that everyone's doing. So she went and got all silvered up and painted in a leotard, and she's Chinese, and it was pretty amazing because she's in all of this silver, and she's so little, and she walks out and she stands up as the 10-man double and is doing the stuff and runs off, and all of us were just totally loving it.
Is this the part where like the 10-man's like behind the clock? And
yes, did I say 10-man double? I did not mean that. That's one. That's a very, yeah. It is.
Oh, the magic.
The magic.
It's a Broadway.
It's the 10-man magic. Yes, that's exactly correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, that is when Bach gets turned into the 10-man.
So Keith, you know, being a swing requires a completely different skill set. It is, in fact, an intense position. Do you have any words of advice or tools that you would give someone for success? And what are your thoughts on being a swing?
That's a good question. So I would say that before I was a swing, I had a little of a stigma, perhaps, that swings were good performers, but people that maybe weren't cast perfectly in the show, so they were put into
understudies as well.
Position. Correct.
I thought that when I was a kid too.
Yeah. And I agree with you. You know, you kind of, because you're doing your thing, and then you're like, oh, these peripheral people, and what do they really do? And then they would pop in and be these people for a moment, you know, a performance or two, and fill a spot. But when I became a swing, it obviously changed my mindset quite a bit. And it's a challenging job. You have to be up for a challenge for sure. It takes a lot of work. We were in, usually swings are always in rehearsal. If there's a rehearsal called, the swings have to be there. You have to be, if it's a put in for someone else or an understudy rehearsal, you have to play all the other people around them so they don't call the whole cast in.
Well, can we break that down just a little bit?
Sure.
He doesn't know what a put in is.
Okay. A put in is, say, in the case of Wicked, say we have an Elphaba understudy that is a new cast member that is going into her track, and they need to be on stage with bodies. So they call in a rehearsal so that they can do blocking on stage, but they need people around them. So the swings will come in, and because the swing knows so many people, they can literally hop back and forth from track to track, or from roll to roll, so that if in one moment Elphaba is working with Fierro, someone is Fierro, but then if there are like two people standing off of Fierro that she has to respond to, they can be those people.
Well, let me ask this about put-ins. I know we're getting a little, because with a put-in, is it still like a requirement by equity or was it ever a requirement for, like, if you go into a show, you get one full run of the show with you and all your costumes, but everybody else has to wear that? Doesn't wear their costumes?
Wait, so would say the last part again?
But everybody else doesn't have to necessarily wear their costumes, but that person gets a full run of the show.
That kind of varies. It depends on the situation as well. I mean, I have been in certain companies with Wicked where there have been situations where it's an emergency and you don't get a put in. I didn't get a put in for some of my tracks as well, because it's an emergency and their intent is for you to have that, but they won't put you on if they don't think you can do it. And you, I guess, have the right, I believe, that you could say, I don't feel safe. But I don't know, most performers probably aren't going to do that. They're going to step up, especially if you're a swing, because that's your job. You're always uncomfortable for the most part,
Well, I think what I love about theater the most, like, this is the one thing I love more than anything about doing theater, is that once the stage manager says go, there are generally about 100 people that start doing their job all at the same time, and they don't stop, and it all creates one product. And so it doesn't matter if you pass out or if you're vomiting. The show just goes on.
Right.
It must go on.
Yeah.
So when you're a swing in a show and this machine is happening, you have got to be literally just in your spot, just doing exactly what needs to happen, because otherwise all the cogs in the wheel can get clogged, can run into each other, and accidents and danger can happen. That's the thing I really love about theater, and that's why I think swings, work so much harder, at their jobs.
I agree with that. And it's a thankless job. You don't get credit when you walk out the door and you've been on for an ensemble member and you walk out the door, or you haven't been on. Let's say that you haven't been on. You walk out the stage door and everybody wants autographs and they're like, who are you? And you're like, oh, I'm a swing. And they will go, oh, and like usually not want your autograph and turn to someone else. Yeah. But that happens. It's a thankless job in a great way, but it's, you don't get, if you're in it for accolades, swinging is not really what's going to get you accolades. Now, if you have a supportive company, I've been in companies where, they're so supportive when a swing goes on and they save the show in a sense, because that's a lot of times is what a swing is doing, and it keeps the show from happening. And there's always someone that's going and doing something that they've never done before. And it is exciting. It can bring a very fresh and fun sense. Like the performers, when you're in the show in a track and you're doing the same show, having that come in all of a sudden is like really fun for them to observe and experience.
But it's interesting because it is in very many ways in past discussions that we've had is that sometimes it's ego related, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It is where you feel marginalized, I think, at some time, at some, right?
Right.
So you have to sort of reframe everything and say, this is what I love about it, right? You have to, for your well-being, you have to find why you're doing it.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
No matter what. And that, yes, ego is involved because you probably have had all the leads before, in a lot of other things. And I understand that completely. I am a swing. I usually understudy many roles as well. And I haven't had a lead in quite some time. And so you kind of get into this world of that you are invaluable to the company. And that's what they'll tell you. You are invaluable to us because you can do X, Y, and Z. And we know we can count on you. And because it is that spur of the moment. Can you think on your feet? How are you going to make this moment happen kind of thing? And it's a lot of pressure and it's a thankless job. So you have to go, this is what I signed up for this. I love to perform. I'm getting paid a solid paycheck, right?
Right.
And
well, your paycheck as a swing is usually more than a normal ensemble member as well, because you're being compensated additional for for the extra rehearsals and the knowledge that you have to maintain, that you're expected to maintain. So yeah, it's definitely a solid paycheck. I mean, it's you get an increment, a little bump for it. Yeah. Right. And I do agree with you.
Find yourself getting stuck, like getting stuck in the world of being a swing because you're a swing.
Yeah. So I find that and in my conversations with people is, there are people that really are cut out to be a swing and they love everything about it. They love the change. They love the downtime, because when you're not on, you're in the building, but you're doing whatever you want to do. So if you want to read a book, or you want to be on your computer, or you want to watch a movie, or you want to walk around and communicate with other people, it's great. You have some free time. So, or you can, but it also, so there are people that genuinely only want to be a swing because they like the buzz of it, and then there are people that it's hard for. I struggled for the first, I'd say 2 years with it. And then I was able to come to a place for myself where, I found my other purposes. I bought a house and was redoing a home. So like the advantage of being a swing was that I got a bump in the paycheck, and I had to look at that. If I wasn't doing this, I'd be making X amount of dollars less every week that I couldn't be putting into my home. That was allowing me to travel. It was, you can find things. A lot of people would learn a foreign language, or they will get a certification from an online school. There can be benefits.
If I can jump in here, part of that is what Candace and I are preaching a lot, for lack of a better word, is that, as performers, we don't always work, 8-hour shifts, in rehearsals, like Candace is right now, like she's working 8-9 hours a day. She's commuting, blah, blah, blah. She doesn't have a lot of time to do everything. But once Hunchback starts performances, she goes to the theater at 7:00 every night, 6:30?
It's a 7:30 half hour.
7:30. And so she's out by 10:30, 11, 12,
right.
11:15. So, what are you doing with your time? And if you're a swing, holy cow, like the amount of, content you could create, or learning how to do whatever it is that you want to do, or I know of a swing, you probably know Felicia Ricci, is that her name?
Yeah.
And that girl wrote a book, and then she started teaching online voice lessons and doing all this online voice coaching on YouTube, and became huge. And, there's just so much more that you can do to continue your brand. I think too many performers, including myself, have this idea that I want to be on Broadway, or I want to be on TV, or I want to be whatever. And they don't stop to look at their personality and their capabilities and what they can do, and find out if maybe there are jobs or positions, not just on stage, but off stage that they can do as well, that they would really love and be passionate about.
Right.
But going back to the swing thing, I think you have to say, hey, you know what? I'm a really good swing. My friend Chris Brewer that I did Grease with, haven't talked to him in 20 years, but every time I heard from him or heard about him, he was swinging Hunchback. He was swinging this show, swinging that show, dance captaining that show. Like those types of roles and jobs, you do become invaluable. And you find a director or a choreographer that will go, no, I need Keith to do this swing job, when the casting director might not have even called you back for the show. Do you know what I'm saying? Because they know all of these people have a job to do. The dance captain, the choreographer, the directors, and the producer, everybody answers to somebody else. And having people on your team that they know can just step into the role and go, boom, 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 and get the job done is really invaluable and could really help you have a long-term career.
Right.
So how long I'm going to use this term relationship. How long was your relationship with Wicked? Because that's exactly what it is.
I started in 2008 and I was constant for 3.5 years in a company. And is that right? Wow. It is 3 years. And then, they started taking me out immediately to fill in, because of me being a swing, for vacations or injuries on the 2 tours. And then in 2014, that same swing position that I had done in my company opened up on tour on the road. So I went out on the road for 18 months and did that. So long answer to that is, I guess the last time I did it, I was on Broadway 2 years ago, and that was kind of the end of it. And then they called me to go out for an emergency week last October on tour. So I feel like my relationship with them, although it's not an active relationship, is still there. If they need me, then they'll call me.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's been beautiful. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Thank goodness it's such a successful show, and they are able to have multiple companies still, and that they can call people in.
So how were you cast in the show? What city?
I was cast here in LA. So I had gone in many times here in LA for the show in the beginning, as an ensemble and Fierro understudy. And the show was being, the first national had gone out. The Chicago company had already started, and then it was announced they were going to do a California sit down here in LA. So they were auditioning, and I auditioned here, got to the end, nothing happened. And then it was kind of one of those of, another aspect of the business is who you know, and being in the right place at the right time in the right moment. And I was at dinner at a restaurant up at Hollywood and Highland here in LA. And a lot of the company members were at a table behind me, and I knew one of the dancers, and we started talking, and the swing had just put in his notice that day. And it literally was, my friend was like, oh my God, he's a great singer. He'd be a great swing. And the dance captain was there and turned around, and we had like a 20-minute or 20-second conversation.
Wow.
Next thing I know, my friend that's playing Fierro has called me twice. I have to go take my headshot and resume over. I did a private audition for them 2 days later, and I was cast. So it was a very different experience than what I'd had before, but they were in need of a very particular thing. So I
think the key to what you just said, though, is that you had already auditioned and gotten to the end. So when the dance captain and the Fierro understudy and all these people started talking, and they ended up back with casting, somebody called casting and were like, yeah, he's great. We've got him on video. He's been approved by the director. You know what I mean? Or we sent him off to the director, and we got him approved. And then that's how it worked. So that's why you can't take for granted any audition that you go to, because
totally
it's an impression right there.
But it doesn't just stop at the audition. It's also like your workability and how, when you work with cast and crew and production on other jobs, how that ties in. Because I know for a fact, one of the reasons I got this job is because when I took my headshot and resume, the stage manager went with me to meet me, or went with my friend to meet me at the stage door. And while I was talking to him, like 3 crew people came in that I had worked with in random shows here in LA that I had not seen. And it was like a reunion, and they were all like, is he coming in? Is he being hired? And they were excited, and I could see his face. The stage manager was kind of like, oh, interesting. And we went for a tour of the thing, and I saw 9 people that I had worked with in other capacities, and they were all performers and crew, costumes, and it was all positive. It was all like, oh my God, I haven't seen you in forever. And that made him go, okay, well, this is a good addition, at least professionally and chemistry wise, with people that he already knows, that they were given a good report, or a good report back on me. So it made him push a little bit harder to get me in the door. Had these people not responded, or it had been a negative thing, he probably would have not pursued trying to get me in the door. You never know who you're coming across, right, in the business. And it's like, you could be going back to our days, we could have been on stage together in a costume, but 10 years from then, you could be the next biggest director and on Broadway.
That's the thing. Like, the one thing I love about you that I learned from you, whether my prideful, egotistic 18-year-old self wanted to admit, was that you were kind, easy to work with, you did your job, and everybody loved you. And as a kid, I thought to myself, how does he do that? That doesn't happen to me. Why doesn't that happen to me? And that's a hard thing for, I think, anyone to say, but it's the truth. And I think that a lot of young people feel that way now. They're like, there's just so much entitlement, or they expect certain things to happen or to go a certain way for them, and it doesn't. And really, it has so much to do with workability and everything that you just said. Right. And so I'm really proud of you. And I mean, really, truly, I think I'm really just proud to have you in my life. We're going to have to wrap this up, but we're going to dive into a bunch more stuff in the after show, which we're going to post live inside our Facebook group. And so if you haven't joined our Facebook group, it's called Biz Of Show, and you can just type it in the search bar and hop on in and join us. We're going to drop a lot more wisdom. We're going to continue this conversation, but we're not going to let you see it. You have to watch it inside the group. So we'll see you guys later. Ladies and gentlemen, Keith Bearden, Candace Donahue, and I'm Levi Walker. Thanks for watching.
Bye, guys.
Thanks again for watching Biz Of Show Live with Levi Walker and Candace Donahue. If you like what you see, please share the video. And of course, join our Facebook group, Biz Of Show. Can't wait to see you inside.